Probate Weekly. I'm Bill Gross, the LAProbateExpert.com. This is Probate Weekly. We get together every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, specifically in Florida, and in Jacksonville, Florida, at 7 p.m. And I say that to show extra appreciation to our special guest, friend of the show, fun guy, recently cut his hair and looking great, from the Sunshine State, Al Nicoletti. Al, how you doing?
Bill, I am doing great. Never been better. If you definitely missed the last time Bill and I did this episode, you got to go back to February. Drastic change from then to now, and always honored to be on your show on Probate Weekly, just to talk about things, business, life, probate, of course. So it's great to be here.
So you're, just to set the table for those who don't know you, as if there's anybody who doesn't know you in the probate space. If they don't, here's your chance to meet a superstar. Al Nicoletti, you're an attorney practicing in the state of Florida, and I believe your office is in Jacksonville.
Yep.
But you really kind of travel the whole state and you teach. And so give us a little background on your practice, what you do, and what you don't do.
Yeah, so I'm Al Nicoletti. I'm a probate real estate attorney. I'm only in Florida, but I somehow know and built out even connections to people all over the country. Not every state, but slowly building that. But in Florida, I help a lot of investors and realtors when they come across sellers that have sticky title situations, much like probate. I mean, probate's number one for me. But solving that issue to help get it sold. And a lot of times, so many people run into the issue that the seller can't sell, the heirs can't sell until the probate's done. And all over Florida, I work with so many different people. And we do things like probates, the quiet titles. Basically, when you get the title work back from the title company and the title commitment says it needs probate, we can't close without quiet title. Wait, there's 5 people. One wants to sell, 4 don't. The property's titled in a trust. Nobody knows where the trust is. Oh, we found the trust. There's only a copy, but the trustees are dead. How do we solve that? That's the kind of stuff I get into. And since the pandemic, I've heavily niched in that. I don't do evictions or unlawful detainer or contract review. Like, I really niched out in that. And I have a ton of content. You can check out so much of my content. I'm always pumping out videos. And you know what I've realized, Bill? The purpose of the videos, you said you'd wind me up and I'd go. The purpose of the videos.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Is, while I may be really getting into a lot of Florida stuff, what it's there to help you realize is say, well, wait a second, I get Al's talking about Florida, but maybe there's a method or a thing that we could do here in our state and connect with an attorney there so we could figure out, hey, is this an option? Is this a method? Is this a thing in California or Oregon or Texas? Like, is this a thing? So check out all the content. I'm on YouTube under Al Nicoletti. You could just check it out. Go on YouTube on the search bar, check my name there, Al Nicoletti, subscribe. You'll know you have the right one where there's like 1,300 people that are subscribed. Go also on Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti. Here, let me make sure everybody sees exactly what the profile is. That's that profile right there, Attorney Nicoletti. Okay, right there.
Hold on, I can do better than that. I can go to your, hold on one second here.
Yeah, let's share.
Get the right spot. Let's do a share screen. Let's get on the screen and go to your website. alnicoletti.com, and there's a picture of, that's Al Nicoletti 1.0. Today we have as our guest Al Nicoletti 2.0. So this is a guy who's suit and tie and has a little longer hair, but they both have a smile, very energetic. And on here has the links to his social media, Facebook and Instagram, and then on YouTube, Al Nicoletti. I'm catching up to you, by the way, Al, as far as just FYI, as far as subscribers. I think I have like 11 or 1,200 and you're 1.35 thousand. So anyhow, and you do have some fantastic stuff, and I watch it. I've seen you as a guest on numerous of your programs and then other people's programs as well. So you do an interview format as well. And when is Al Nicoletti show? You do that on Thursdays as well?
Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, bringing on people all over the country, in Florida. It doesn't matter what state, and it's all in different industries. So like I had a guy on, Bill. It was amazing. And is anybody here doing commercial property or getting into commercial stuff?
I am.
Okay,
And
so Neil Timmons was on my show probably 3, 4 weeks ago. Mind blown. I mean, the kind of content we went on for 2 hours. You probably can imagine it could have gone on probably for two more, but 2 hours of commercial real estate was unbelievable. If you want to learn stuff like that, that's where the show has been really taking off. And I'm sure, Bill, you remember when it really first started, when I think this is my third time on Probate Weekly. There you go. Yeah, Neil Timmons. That was a really good episode. If you want to learn things.
Yeah, I mean, True Confessions, I don't watch it live. I watch it on the YouTube. It's just easier for me and time-wise. But great stuff. You go into depth with people. And I think you're right. And I actually do the same thing, which is people ask me, well, I'm in Minnesota. And I'll say, well, I don't necessarily know an attorney in Minnesota, though I'm glad to interview one. But there's certain principles that are the same across the country. And there's other things that you'll learn about from a Florida attorney. I hope you understand the Minnesota laws better, because those are principles, maybe with different nomenclature, different names. So,
yeah, and it may be different laws, but the idea is that it gives you an issue spotting idea or a suggestion or an option, right? And a lot of people get into mental blocks and get stuck with, how do we solve this? Or how do we overcome this? Or I didn't know we needed everybody on contract. Is that going to hold up the deal? You know what I mean? It's like everybody assumes that, oh, we just need the PR. And that happens a lot in Florida, but we just need the PR. It's like, not really. Not when you get homestead property and there's 7 kids ever. It's like you got to make sure that you're really understanding what's happening, what's going on. And maybe you run into a situation you don't need all 7 kids to sign a contract. Maybe you just need one. But it all varies. And I think that's the idea of the content, and having people on that talk about stuff in Airbnbs, probate. I got to actually, Bill, I have a really neat one. I'm pretty sure she's coming on Wednesday. We were going back and forth, but Sharon, I got to get her name. She actually does a lot of Kentucky probate.
I know her. I had her on my show as well.
Bornhole.
Yes.
Oh.
She's great. She's like a coach. She's more of an investor focused than real estate focused. So she teaches investors how to use probate. She was a guest on my program too. She's fantastic.
I mean, see, that's the kind of stuff that's huge. Watching it on Bill's episodes, she'll be on my show, because you can learn so much about it. If you're in the Kentucky market, or maybe you're not in the Kentucky market, but think about it, Kentucky. I mean, I don't practice there. I don't think I know anybody there, but if I ever need anything in Kentucky, I can point to somebody that way. Same thing with Bill. There was a deal that came up. Who was the first person I contacted in California, Bill?
I hope it was me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it was me.
I immediately text. I'm like, is this land something? Is this something? I mean, so it's really good to make connections with people in other states, because you never know what deals come up, what happens, and what you run into. So check out all the content and definitely subscribe and find out more about this stuff.
So to be precise, if somebody had a referral anywhere in Florida, you'd be open to it? Sarasota, Tampa, what's in the Panhandle there? Pensacola, statewide.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere in Florida, I handle probate. I handle the weird stuff. We do the weird probate stuff, whether it's 2 heirs, whether it's 10 heirs. You know, one thing a lot of investors and realtors have to realize when these deals get complicated, you want to talk about like a topic really to get into, is understanding the amount of time and the amount of money that would take place into a deal like that. When somebody said Georgia, yeah, we'll get to Georgia. Don't let me forget. I got somebody really good in Georgia. But Bill, when you get these deals that get complicated, that get weird, it's going to cost money, and there's got to be room in the deal. And everybody's got to understand, look, the hypothetical can make sense. You can get everybody on contract. You can get everybody to sign deeds at the closing. But if the mortgage is higher than the contract price, and the mortgage company is not willing to do a short sale, why are you still in the deal? Why are you getting everybody scrambling to the closing table and scrambling the probate attorney? You got to make sure that the deal's going to make sense for everybody. And I've talked about that on my slides. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. But breaking it down, the deal's got to make sense and say, Al, how much is it going to cost to get this thing done if we're missing one heir? How much is it going to cost if we have 10 heirs, 15 heirs? What are we looking at? Because if I tell you it's $10,000, $15,000 to do that, and there's not enough room in that deal after brokerage, after costs, after all this stuff, after money, net proceeds to seller, why are we doing it? The other thing is really communicating through with who's paying fees and costs in some of these deals, right? So I don't know how it works in other states, but in Florida, the buyer can pay me to do the probate, or the investor can pay me. Or if Bill wants to buy the property, he can go to the sellers and say, hey, you know what? I don't want you to pay for the probate. Don't worry, I will foot Al's bill. I'll take care of that. And in my world, I'm cool with taking that money as long as the heirs are okay with that and they agree to something like that. And a lot of people are surprised. Wait a second. You mean in our offer, we can say we can pay for the probate, like the investor can pay for the probate instead of the seller? Huge opportunity. And you run your numbers for your contract.
Well, I think also as an investor, when you find a property, the seller may have gone to an attorney who quoted them one fee, but if you work with somebody who's professional, maybe more efficient, and therefore a little less fee, or you give them a lot of business, you negotiate a little better execution, well, then now the seller is benefiting from your cost savings by you making the offer and you handling responsibility for it. So that's very common here in California for investors to offer to pay for, maybe not before the deal struck. Before the deal struck, yes. Not after it's struck and you discover a problem, but normally before the deal struck, that's very common. Okay, so just real quick, we're going to do a quick accounting of who's on the call with us today. We have a bunch of people. So if your primary job is a real estate agent versus an investor versus a wholesaler versus a lender or vendor, put in what your primary focus is. If you do two things, I'm a real estate investor, but my primary business every day is as a real estate broker. Put that in the chat box so I know who I'm talking to and I can ask Al the right questions for you. If you're a realtor or investor or wholesaler or vendor or attorney. And then also put what state you're in. We have people from Atlanta, Seattle, Scottsdale. And so we have a bunch of California, of course, but we want to make sure that we cover things that are appropriate for you. Al, I noticed that you do a lot with real estate meetups where you're dealing with, I imagine they're primarily investors, wholesalers, rather than real estate agents listing the property. Is that a fair mix of your business or majority of it? Or how does it break down for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly mostly distressed properties. Once in a while, I've been picking up some things where realtors are involved. For example, there was one deal where the investor, he actually had both investor and then real estate license, realtor license. He was going to purchase the property on terms. And he was prepared to make the offer. It was going to be great actually for everybody involved. But I think then they pivoted and they didn't want to do a terms deal. Sellers got to feel comfortable with doing a terms thing, right? So then they said, "Oh, we want to list it for top dollar." So we said, "Hey, actually, I'm gonna list this property." So you never know. Does it go from investor to realtor hat, and how do you address it there? On this deal, I'll just talk about this, Bill, which is crazy. On this deal, everybody was so like, how do we get this done? How long is it going to take? And my response is, hold on a second. We got to analyze the deal. We got to analyze the transaction. So it doesn't matter whether you're an investor or realtor. One thing that you got to learn when it comes to these things is understanding the systems and processes an attorney has in place. For example, let's just say Bill finds a lead in Sarasota, beautiful Sarasota, right on the Key, the Siesta Key area, right? And Bill says, "Hey, Al, I looked at this deed. I got with the title company. They said they got to go through probate." One of the best things, Bill, going to an attorney and finding somebody like me is saying, before we get going, I would love to learn your systems and processes on how you do intake, or how do we get it over? How do you arrange payment? What can we do? How long are we thinking? What's the process in Sarasota? Because, a lot of people say, "Bill, like, what's working? What's happening now in your business, Al?" And what's happening is I get so many leads. I mean, since February and since last time I was on Probate Weekly, you can only imagine the amount of calls and the amount of emails. And when that happens, what happens is they'll send the deals and then the investor or realtor disappears. You got to be in this just as much as the attorney, just as much as the title company. You can't just list the property, lock it up under contract, and totally move on. You got to be in it and ask questions and find out, what can you do? Doesn't matter if you found the deal. What can you do to help facilitate it? But also sit down. I would love it if Bill said, Al, before we start doing probate leads and deals and figuring out all that, I want to understand, how does it work with your assistant? Who handles updates in the office? Like, I don't want to bother you. I want to follow up with somebody that does that. That is so crucial. Forget about understanding what probate is and how it is. Let's just start at, everybody wants to get in it. How do we get in it? I found a lead. This is one of the first steps. People miss this. And I see it all the time. And I keep saying to myself, man, I would really appreciate if some people said that. And they said, I want to learn your systems and processes. So example, today I had a call, and this lady, you know how sellers are. Does everybody know how a seller is? Right? Yeah. Okay. So, some sellers, they just don't get it, right? They'll take forever to get back to you and call the attorney or call you. Sometimes it's not the lawyer. Sometimes it's the seller, it's usually the seller. So she finally gets in touch with me, and I go through the whole story. And the next thing you know, I heard her say something about there may be other heirs, because she told the investor she was the only one. But when I asked the questions, it wasn't the only one. There's more people. And I said, okay, so now we got to figure out who these other people are. She doesn't even know. So now we got to go back to the investor and explain, this is what's going on. Sometimes it's better if the lawyer's cool with it. Everybody get on the phone together. Is it cool with the seller? Is it cool if everybody gets on the phone together? That way, the attorney's not going back to you. You're not asking what's going on. You're not asking, the seller's not going back to them and saying, we're all good to go. And it's a whole confusion mess. So I tell you all this because sometimes it's not just about probate, the word probate. A lot of times it's the front end of maneuvering the communication with people. And I can't tell you how important that is more than ever. Bill, I've had to change so much myself. Forget 2.0. I had to change so much of my delegation and who handles my updates and who handles this, because we got to be on the same page, and it's no different if you're doing deals.
We'll go back a little bit. Since the first time we spoke, I think you've actually been on twice before. You actually started your own firm. When I talked to you the first time, you were with another firm. And I remember when I called you back and you told me you changed. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because you're like a rainmaker. You're generating your own business. Then it always makes sense to have the firm in your name. So you've really restructured your entire business from when we started. And I think if I could pause you, everybody paying attention, or real estate agents pay attention, notice he's telling you that you need to follow up on your leads. My experience is the opposite. I think that's what a real business person looks like. Any real business person is involved in the business development at some level. I don't care if you're an attorney or a realtor or investor or whatever. And he's saying to us, we need to follow up more effectively. I would say, I wish my attorneys followed up more effectively. I'm pushing them. We have a mix, is we have two people who are both working together, working hard. So that's fantastic. Okay. So you mostly work with the investors. How do leads come into you? I know that you go out and you do business development. You're on this call, similar calls, you host your own call. I know you speak at real estate meetups and industry events. How does an individual lead come to your office? I'm sure a variety of ways. What's the most common method that somebody comes to you saying, I need probate help?
So because I'm on the attorney end, it's really word of mouth, right? I'm in a very unique position opposed to everybody else on the call, right? As opposed to everybody else that's kind of getting into this, because my role is solving the puzzle, getting that issue resolved, and then you close, right? In your industry, Bill, you run into realtors and investors that they don't want to handle it. It's going to take too long. It's too complicated. So if you are willing to take the challenge, just like I am as the lawyer, I mean, there's lawyers that refer probates to me because they have no time. And I'm like, you don't want to handle two probates. I mean, that's, bread and butter for me all day. For them, it's like, pulling hair out. But I think it's really explaining and saying, hey, I've been through, well, you got to go through the experiences. You got to go through the motions. You're not just saying it, but hey, I went through a deal last year. It was absolutely nuts. But I actually enjoyed the experience because it worked out for everybody. I knew exactly how to do it. I knew what I would do differently this time. If you run across that, I don't know if you guys do referral fees in networks. Who knows? It's word of mouth, right? It's really understanding what you're doing. Educate people and explain what you've been through. Just like the show. One thing I tell people is everybody loves stories. And if you've been through an experience that's a success in probate, that's huge. Also, listen to what people are saying on their end. Maybe Bill says, oh man, I went through this deal. I'll never do probate again. Well, that's an opportunity too, because then you can go to them and say, well, look, you may not want to do it again, but maybe I do. I'm willing to handle it. So word of mouth, real estate, realtor meetups are always good. I mean, any associations, watching things live too. I mean, what did the pandemic do? It did this, where you have Bill and Al on a show. I mean, we're across the country. Bill's in California, I'm in Florida. Like, you know, so really digest some of these things too with what other people are talking about. Even in the chat group, even in the chat box, you know, this is an opportunity to say, hey, my name is, I'm in California, I'm in Oregon, you know anybody over there? This is an opportunity. People think, oh, Zoom, it's just like, let's like sit here. No, get in there, introduce yourselves, throw it out there. A lot of people are doing that now. And just, you know, they're throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. So content creation's big for me as well, Bill.
Well, first of all, let me just echo what you just said. Anybody on the call, feel free to put your contact info. It's interesting. People put, I'm a realtor in Arizona, I'm a realtor in North Carolina. Great. If somebody wanted to refer you a case, a listing, or maybe needed a probate attorney there and refer a case afterwards, how they get a hold of you. And I always tell people, the more you participate, the more money you make. Camera on, people are going to see you, more likely to work with you. Put your information in the chat box. I know some Zooms are against that. I'm all for it. Do whatever networking you want there. Put your advertisements in there. I could care less. If you ask a question, though, I also want you to participate. Either raise your hand in the Zoom application or in the chat box, put a Q in front. That way I'll make sure I notice it's a question. But all of you should put in all of your contact info. Don't be shy about it. Only if you want business. If you don't want business, then don't worry about it. If you want more money, do it. But if you don't want more money, don't put anything in the chat box. You might accidentally get some business. Can I just also point out, Al is a living example. I tell people all the time, we get paid to solve problems. Do you see the joy when he talks about solving problems? Most people complain and bitch, oh, you won't believe what happened. He tells a story and lights up about the problem he fixes. That's what we're supposed to be. He's an example, I think the best example of what we want to be like when we grow up. Someday I'd like to be like Al. I don't know that I cut my hair quite that short, but I want to be like Al in every other way. So he's a great example for all of us on that. So let's switch a little bit to realtors, obviously on the call. And what I don't want is we have, 60 something people on this call, and we'll end up with probably 80 by the time everybody logs in YouTube. I don't want me to call Al and solicit his business when we're done. That's just not smart. But talk a little bit about if you were a real estate agent out in another state and your ambition was to build, maybe you're making money as a realtor and you want to add to your probate practice and you want to specifically work on it by earning referrals from attorneys. What steps would you take to get business from attorneys if you're a real estate agent or investor looking to do business with an attorney?
I think definitely one, it goes back to the original point of really learning how they work. First of all, you got to meet with them, see if you like them, feel them out, or, you got to be able to click. A lot of times, you'll say, oh, this is going to be something. It's just like connecting with people, not just lawyers. You got to be able to jive with them, really like them. And so when you meet with them, see what they get into. You also don't want to get connected with somebody that says, yeah, we dabble in probate here and there. What does that mean?
No.
I don't know. I don't say that. I mean, I'm doing it every day. I'm living. I mean, I forgot what my producer says, but basically probate all day, day and night. But I would say that's huge. Also, really ask, what do they do in their practice? You know, how many people do they have? You know, do they do closings as well? Maybe that's another thing that when you bring the closings to, you never know what that brings. Don't expect always something in response, like, you know, a quid pro quo. Don't expect I send you, you send me. What you want to do is just build a relationship. You want to like and trust what they do. You want to understand what they do. You just never know if they get a deal organically from a PPC lead or a Facebook lead and they need something, just like what happened with Bill. I mean, I'm not in California, but my buddy, he found something that was in California, and he was like, "Hey, do you know a realtor in California?" And I was like, "The only one I know over there is Bill Gross," you know? And I'm like,
I'm the only realtor from the Arizona border all the way across, just so you know. There is no other.
There's nobody else. That's it.
There really isn't. I'm sorry. So but I'll give you good service. We have probably about 20 on this phone call, actually, but
but
I'd like to be.
I would say also, you know, meet with them, understand what they do, and you know, do they do probate all the time? And just see what happens when you send them business, or see what happens when, you know, you get them into something that they want to work on. You just never know. But learn what they do, learn everything that they get into. And I would say something that you should do is, once you do that and you jive with them, tell them specifically what you are, who you are, how you like to work, what kind of business you're getting. Because I had an attorney on my show, Rick Pereira. He's big time. I mean, Rick's a big time divorce attorney. I mean, I think he's representing one of the Real Housewives husbands right now. I mean, he's big time. And he was telling me about divorces. And I said, Rick, let me ask you a question. If you had a divorce case and there was a piece of real estate, how would you select the realtor that gets involved to list the property? He said, it's a great question. What he would look for is somebody that specifically focuses on that type of property. For example, not just, oh, I handle probate. No, I handle probate for distressed, dilapidated properties. I handle probate for luxury properties. So instead of it just being, I handle probate for land and everything else, I handle probates for land under $50,000. That way it categorizes you as the go-to for a specific area that nobody else knows. And they're going to think, well, why am I going to go to the 10 other people that think they know how to do it when this guy only gets into land under $50,000? I'm going to go there. So really hone in on the niche in real estate that you're in. You never know. You may be Beverly Hills, right? And you may be getting probates from the stars. And if, you know, only one does it, you know, gets you through the year. So you just have to focus on your niche. It's no different. It's not magic. It's connections, it's communication, it's consistency. And I just say, make it something where you're going to make the effort also to really make a connection.
Wow. That's great advice. So now the flip side, I know you do a bunch of probates, a bunch of cases. You must be solicited. You have to be the prettiest girl in the prom to every realtor in the state of Florida, particularly Jacksonville. You must be solicited nonstop for business. What do real estate agents or investors do to solicit you that you would not do? You'd say, really, not as a waste of time, but you're really harming your own reputation. Or is there anything?
You mean, what is the realtor? If what do I see that a realtor's doing that's saying like, whoa, like, I think everybody's got to stay in their lane. For example, like if you sent me a case, Bill, and you said, Al, take care of it. I got your systems and processes down. I know how you were doing. Go for it. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, hey, where's everything at? I'm like, they haven't even signed. Hey, where's everything at? 2 weeks later, you know, hey, where's everything at? You know, at a certain point, when you push people to a certain level, it's going to come back around, because the next thing you know, when you get the probate done, hey, is the closing happen? Hey, is the closing happen? It's like, so be a little lenient on the follow-up too. I didn't say don't follow up. Be more lenient on it, because it's not always the lawyer. It's the sellers too.
Right.
We send DocuSign out. We're
Right.
just like, you have no idea how many times we hit the remind button, like 4 times. We're no different than you all, hit
I
the
did the same
remind,
exact thing. I just
you
did it
know,
today. Yeah.
oops, that's a slip thumb right there. So, make sure that you understand that. The other thing is you got to have the trust. When you go into this, you got to have the trust from beginning to end. So I've seen times where the realtor wants to call the judicial assistant and actually find out where the status of the case is.
You can't do that, can you? You can't do that in
Um,
LA.
I'm not saying you can't do that, but that's definitely the red line because that goes into not being able to have the pure communication, right? That's the inability to understand a system and process. If you have to go beyond that and start finding out yourself. Now, if the lawyer's not responding,
Right.
and you can't get the assistant and you can't get people, I understand maybe in that situation, but when you got that communication going, stay in the real estate lane. Lawyer stays in there. Lawyer's not getting into how you're doing the listing or how, we're just saying, hey, make sure you get everybody, make sure you get with title, make sure you do that. And then the other thing is being a part of the deal. I've seen times where it's like, oh, this happened. This was a crazy one. So this one lady referred me a land deal and then said, yeah, they'll pay for it at the end, all this stuff. We got the whole thing done. We sent the invoice to the title company. We followed up, never heard anything. You know who's following up with me, Bill? The seller. She's like, I haven't heard from the investor. I haven't heard from anybody. And I was like, what? Like, how have you not heard from the investor? I don't know. So we tried calling, she tried calling, and sweet lady, I can't believe she's kept in touch with me. She wanted the invoice, so she paid me directly. And I thought it was crazy. Like my thinking is this: you had me scrambling to get the probate done. You followed up multiple times. We get it done. You ghost. You don't close. You leave the seller high and dry and the lawyer high and dry. Why am I doing a deal with you again?
Reputation is so important. I tell people all the time, I can't speak for everybody else as a realtor, but I've been around since 1986. Everything I have is online. If you see anything negative about me, let me know. I'm not aware of it. I haven't cheated anybody. Yes, I have some sharp elbows to defend my customers. I had one, principal. I'm representing the listing agent and the buyer's agent who I kind of had to box a little bit, and his client wrote a negative review on me. That's my one negative review. And, I tell people, well, my job is to defend my client. That's the one guy who his agent got online and he got a little sharp elbow from me and he complained to his client. His client complained about me. But normally your reputation is important and you want to be known for doing what you say you're going to do and not disappear for periods of time. So that's a really important suggestion. When you get business coming in from a real estate agent, oftentimes I'm sure you have a probate case where the family says, oh, we have our favorite realtor, Barney Realtor or Betty Realtor, and they're the greatest. Obviously that affects you getting paid. It affects your business at some point. Do you vet them? Do you let the client pick? Do you try to get involved in that referral process if they bring a realtor with them? How does that work for you?
I really stay out of the whole decision part of it. So rarely, if ever, I get an organic lead. Many times there's already a realtor that's on it. The title companies pull title. There's an investor on the deal. They're locked up under contract or some form.
It's like an emergency phone call. Break the glass and get out Nicoletti in here. We have a problem. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's literally what happens. And I just I stay out of it. I've learned there was one deal one time where the seller told me she had nobody, that there was no realtor. Like, and then I was like, okay, well, in your area for your comps, I know somebody that's over there. And then all of a sudden another realtor called and said, how come you sent it over there? How could you have done this? Well, nobody told me. Nobody told me about that. So a lot of times it's not the lawyers, it's the sellers, and you never know what they're doing, what they're all doing behind. So I learned a long time ago from that. I stay out of it. I don't even want to get into it. I had one investor, he went through the probate files on the court, And he saw this one lady reached out and said, Al did the probate. She said, yeah. He goes, are you selling? No. So then he comes to me, he goes, hey man, they weren't selling, let us know when that kind of stuff happens. I was like, look, the thing is, I never know anymore. I never know who's on it. And I'm a loyal person. I don't want to get involved and get into somebody's deal, get into something. I let them deal with it. Now, if a lady or a guy called me from a PPC lead or a Facebook lead, and it was purely organic, absolutely out of the blue, we just want to list this. I found you on your Facebook ad. That's a different story, right? I think that's a different story. I saw you at an event, or I saw you here, totally different. And in those situations, what lawyers do, just like I explained as what Rick would do in a divorce, what we're looking for is somebody that's a specialist in a certain niche in a certain area. That's how you really capitalize on that referral system, right? But a lot of times, here's another nugget. You really want to find lawyers that may refer you cases. Sometimes it's the ones that are the dinosaurs, the ones that have been around 30, 40 years that get the cases in the community. Many times they're not locked up under contract with realtors and investors. They just are entrenched in the community so much that everybody knows who they are and they send cases to them. I hope to be one of those dinosaurs one day in 30 years where it's not just dependent on distressed property, but it's dependent on community staple, right? So there's so much to be said about, who has the ability to have those kinds of cases. But to really answer that, Bill, as a lawyer answer, I really stay in my lane. I think realtors and investors got to stay in their lane when it comes to this stuff. And I say, you know what? You do what you want. If you want to go there and you want to choose them, that's one thing. But if you don't want to choose them and you got nowhere else to go, okay, then let me know. Until then, I'm out.
I'm hoping 30 years from now, you have at least one gray hair. It'll make me feel a lot better if I'm still around. When you talk about specializing for real estate agents, not counting those on your live stream, but once you meet in person or call you directly or see you at events, how many realtors have you met in the last year that tell you they specialize in probate?
Not many. Okay. If I had to pull a number out of the air, probably actually verbally said I'm a C-press. I get into probates, like actually out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Probably 10.
Okay. So right there, just FYI, you're one of 10. If you're an agent who approaches Al, you're one of 10. Now, if I said to you, I am the Palm Beach probate expert. Not only am I an expert in probate, but I know the Palm Beach court. I go to Palm Beach court regularly. I know the judges, I know the local attorneys. How much more likely are you to think about me when you have something, say, in Palm Beach versus some other location?
Well, I mean, if you're saying, hey, I'm in this area, I do this, I'm in this locale.
Yeah.
I think so. Because again, it's hard. I mean, Palm Beach, for example, it's one of the toughest counties for probate in Florida, hands down. It's got strict requirements. They take a little longer. You never know what they're going to want. And then 2, you got rising values over there. A lot of people moving out of Miami to go to Palm Beach, a lot of people moving out of Broward to go to Palm Beach, and people love the weather over there. So you're going to want to find somebody that understands the market and the changing market conditions, but understands distressed situations, understands land situations, because you may not just be involved in a buyer that has cash. You may be involved in families that want to move there. You just don't know. And we want to know who these people are. For example, let's name a random county, Suwannee County, Florida. I wouldn't just pick anybody, any realtor in Florida to do a Suwannee County probate, or if it was like an organic lead, right? It's organic. I'd want to know somebody that's in that county that understands that understands what's going on. Because you want somebody on the ground. When you get these small counties, it's not Miami.
Right.
It's a completely different world. So you're really focusing on, again, back to the same point of, I'm in this niche, I'm in this market, hone in,
Yep.
That's how you become it. When you just think I'm the C press, I'm the probate all over. I mean, again, I don't have to go that far. I'm only in Florida. I don't want to, I don't want to go, I don't want to go to all these other states, right? I mean, sure, could I take the bar exams and who knows, I don't want to do that again, but I want to be in Florida. So anybody that knows Florida, same principle. They're all coming.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think when we talk about local counties, think about anybody who's watched the movie My Cousin Vinny. That's kind of in some of these smaller counties that you want to think about the judges and attorneys. Okay. I've got a couple more questions here, but anybody that calls meant to be participative. Some of you guys are regulars. I appreciate seeing you all the time and supporting. Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to put a question in the chat box. I see a lot of networking, which I think is great. I'm glad to have that there. I don't see any questions I haven't got to yet. So feel free, if you have questions, put it in the chat box, start with a Q. So let's see, Facebook user, how do you spell your last name? Nicoletti. We'll put it in the chat box, but Nicoletti is his last name. And I think that's all the comments in the chat box. Okay, so my next question is the probate advance, inherited advance, probate cash. Is that a thing in the state of Florida? And how is that used in a positive way? And how, if any, is it used in a negative way?
You mean like advancement? Like
There
when
you go,
an heir's been
advancement.
given, an heir's been given money before the death and now they die, that person dies.
Well, my question more is, do you get cases where people come to you and don't have the cash, and do you advise them to consider that as a way to get the cash to pay for the fees on whatever they might need for legal fees? I know like it's abused in some cases, and it's also used in some cases. So where do you fall out on that industry or product?
You see where my lawyer brain's going? Because there's actually a term called advancement. There's a term in probate called advancement. So I was thinking, oh, maybe that's what you're going for. You're talking about like, okay, there's a piece of property. It's titled in mom's name, dad's name. They died. And the kids, they have 9-to-5 jobs. They live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have the money to pay the probate attorney. Well, sure. One model that I do, I'll wait until the closing to get paid. And I follow that rule. I used to do 100%. Now I do 90%. And you're like, where are you coming from, Al? So sometimes you get a weird scenario, like one I had today, where the lady got the probate done back in 2015. She quit claimed it to a guy. He's trying now to sell the property to the investor, but the title company's saying that there needs to be a reopening of a probate. And now when I did an analysis, there's more heirs. And when I do that, what's the answer? What's the question, Bill? Are they going to be on board when the probate's done? So many times I'll wait until it closes, but certain situations like this, there's no guarantees. I'll want money up front, right? So I think it's all dependent on the scenario, but definitely huge model that's grown my business is saying, let's get the probate done. I'll wait until closing. I get paid off the HUD, move that title company to get that thing done because we want to close just like everybody wants to get the probate done. We want to get that done. But then again, like I said, if the investor or the realtor wants to be the one, because what happens with sellers? So at first starts as he'll wait until closing. Sounds good. Then they find out it gets deducted off their seller proceeds and they don't want that. So now they want somebody else to pick up the tab off the seller proceeds. Then the buyer's coming in and saying that they will pay for it. And then all of a sudden the buyer's figuring out how to adjust the HUD so that it comes out to the same. And then that's an issue too. So I think it's just super clear communication about, hey, no problem. If you find that Florida probate, Al's willing to wait until the closing to get paid, but talk to him first to make sure the scenario adds up that he's willing to do that. But second of all, if you don't have the money and you want to make sure you get the net proceeds, I, the buyer, I, the investor, I will have that come off my line item on the buyer side of the HUD. So you're getting your net proceeds that you deserve.
Got it. And do you ever work with third parties that advance money on behalf of them to cover fees and maybe riskier legal fee situations?
So, that kind of came up about 4 or 5 years ago when I was down in Miami about like, hey, that would be an opportunity. But it doesn't happen too often. We've only seen that as an option we see that as an option for litigation, or for, let's just say there's a case and it's really good, it's slam dunk, but they don't have the money for costs. They don't have the money for depositions. They don't have the money to do any kind of court reporters or litigation stuff. Then maybe a third party lender coming in would be the move, right? Because you're not fronting it, they're not fronting it. Everybody's kind of like, we'll have the lending company take a chance. But I have not seen that personally on my end on some stuff that I've worked on.
I think it's more common in California because our costs are higher, and particularly costs where you have court confirmation on that minority of cases where there's going to be out of pocket $1,000, $2,000 any way you slice it. And so if the person doesn't have that money, because I've been doing more and more, we're actually creating my own company to do that and actually teach a class on that. I'll give you guys the information at the end if you're interested. Interesting that it's not as common in Florida, but I think your costs to file a probate are less. We're like $347, and publications like another $300, so it adds up pretty fast. Yeah, and it's service fees and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in Florida, it could be like, for example, if it's like a homestead property, you're really looking at $250 plus maybe some shipping costs if they need the death certificate, or if it's land, you're looking at $357 plus shipping costs and stuff like that for any death certificate. So it's really not that bad. Newspaper publications are just brutal, especially in quiet title, just brutal.
How is it so expensive in the age of the internet? How do those guys get away with those fees? I don't get it.
I don't know either, but I'll say this, like anybody that wants me to do a quiet title, I literally have a quick discussion and then a long discussion, because a lot of people, let's do the quiet title. Well, here's the short answer. They're long and they're expensive. And then they'll want to know why. I almost had to do a newspaper publication on a case with 32 defendants. I think 12 of them were dead, so they wanted publication anyway. That newspaper publication probably would have been about $3,000.
Yeah.
I mean, for what? Look, I'm not saying that the work isn't worth it typing, the stuff, but let's be real. Why is it $3,000? I don't know.
You can get an internet domain for about $10 a year and a page for free and link it in a small ad. I don't know. The whole thing seems crazy to me. Okay, we got a question from Chris. Given the increase in foreclosures and potential short sales, are you finding cases with little or no equity, and what do you do with them? You get a deal and it comes to you, and either up front or maybe in the middle of the process there's more cost involved, and you realize, hey, there's no money to close this, we're going to be short. Do you do short sales? Do you refer out short sales? Do you tell them to find another attorney to finish it up? How do you handle that at that point?
Let's just say it's in a short sale position. I'll tell them, like, Bill, you find one. I'll tell you, Bill, I'll do the probate all day. I just got to be paid up front for it. And if you told me, hey, Al, I got the best short sale negotiator, I got somebody that can do this, I still don't know if they would be able to do it, right? Banks are all over the place when it comes to stuff and what they want and how they evaluate things. So I would just say in that situation, if you got somebody that you think can really solve that issue, but the attorney's like, well, there's no closing where there's going to be proceeds to an attorney, maybe they got to be paid up front, right? Also, it depends on the state you're in. Florida's still hot. I get investors that, like, some of them will be like, well, we're kind of going in more of a down market. But then you're like, well, wait a second, Sarasota prices have never been higher. Naples is hotter than the sun. Miami's hot. Palm Beach is hot. And it's like, yes, if nobody's paying the bank, the interest rates are going to keep going up. So when you find a foreclosure, here's a great golden nugget. If you find a foreclosure, especially reverse mortgages, and you get the family and you get them on board, they gotta hustle. If they don't get moving and they do not listen to what you tell them to do, or they don't get with the attorney, move on to the next file.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you that story, Bill. I had a case in Jacksonville. It was crazy, where it was just 4 of them, 3 were on board. They couldn't get the last one out of the house. And I told them, I said, look, you got a reverse mortgage here. I don't know if it was RMS or if it was Mr. Cooper, who's, Mr. Cooper. But I don't know who it was. And I said, look, those rates, that's 28%. It was high. It was 28%. It was really high. I said, if you don't get moving, when they started, the payoff was 425. When they finally figured out they needed to do something and get her to the table, it was 480.
Right. It goes fast. When you get to penalty interest rates and fees and filing of notice of defaults and trustees, those fees add up fast, quick style. It goes from a short sale to a deep short sale real fast. Yeah. And I think to your point also, if the customer can't e-sign documents and make decisions and move quickly, because you've got a long ways to go in a short sale from when you sign up, if you have to probate also, there's a lot of hoops to get through. If they can make decisions and move fast, maybe. If they can't, you're going to regret that listing. It's just going to be a nightmare and end up in a foreclosure and a mess and a potential lawsuit on your hands too. So, okay. Look, I think we're kind of getting close to the end of the hour. Last call for questions. Before we go there, I don't see any. Raise your hand in the Zoom application. I just want to present to everybody. This is Probate Weekly. We do this every Thursday. On Wednesday morning, 8:00 a.m., I do a program called getprobate.cash. In California and some other states, some in Florida, more in Texas, more in Michigan, there's a third party that will advance money to families to file the costs, pay for the attorney's fees, legal fees, clean out fees and such. And it's a way to make some money and some paid lead generation. I have a video on that on my YouTube channel, but I do it live on Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Go to getprobate.cash if you want to sign up for that. That's Wednesdays at 8:00. Also, if you're local in LA, as soon as we're done here in about an hour or so, we have the LA Real Estate Investors Club meeting at the Iman Center, which is a Muslim center. I'm not exactly Muslim, but they're nice to me there. And I don't like to go out after 5:00, but this is a great event. There'll be 250 people there. There'll be a great speaker on investing out of state. Big crowd, 50 vendors. I'm one of them. I'm the official podcast host. And this week, Kathy Fetke is there. And the important thing I would say is it's free. So if you're looking to be an investor and participate, learn a little bit about real estate, come to the Vendors Expo. Information at LAREIC.com. So thanks for letting me get that in. Okay. Any last questions? I don't see any more. Al, anything that you think, words of wisdom, real estate agent looking to build his business, struggling, market's a challenge, maybe it's not. They're trying to get into probates, have some issues. What would you recommend to them to build their business? What 1 or 2 steps would you recommend?
Definitely, one, I would get with some kind of service provider or CRM company that can help filter out your leads as warm, hot, cold, and then get lists and then start building. Do your dialers or do your cold direct mail, whatever you do, because you need to hit it, right? You need to go all in to try to get it, and that's kind of like what happened with me, right? I mean, here and here and here and here, and all of a sudden, slowly comes in. When you take your time and you go one by one, a lot of people I see, Tasha, I know a lot of people love REI SIF. They use that with Tyler Austin. Tyler's out in the Panhandle, but a lot of programs like that where you get data and you upload data. And then you use that data to see, is it good? Is it, not good? Is it not responding? And somebody like Tyler, his strategy is if you have incomplete data or data that's not working, that may be actually good, because that means other people are having the same problem that
Correct.
you have.
Right.
And that means that could be huge. So you don't think your leads are bad necessarily. It just may be the way you're sifting them out. And again, I would say this, really connect with people in your markets and network. And it sounds so basic and simple, but people just still don't do it. And I think COVID made this easier, with me and Bill. And I mean, more than ever, even before the pandemic, it was crazy. But talk to people in the chat boxes, find out what everybody else does, jive with people, and don't be afraid to connect with other attorneys and in different markets. You never know what you're going to get into.
Last question I'm going to ask is, you've built a great social media presence and a particular YouTube channel. What are 1 or 2 key things you learned along the way towards building your own social media presence or video in particular?
You know,
I try to copy you. I do. I take a poor man's approach. Like I have your sound things. I have the cheaper ones in the back, and I'm chasing after you on subscribers. But what are one or two things that you've learned that you would share with other people?
First of all, I'm honored that people are looking up to me as the social media person for this stuff. Cause like I never was into Facebook. I never was into Instagram and YouTube, but I think when I realized that you can leverage these mediums for business, but you do it in a fun way or an educational way, and it's a light way, it actually helps. So along the journey, one thing I'll say is, 1.0, I was bigger than this. I was definitely heavier. I definitely have taken more care of myself. And a lot of people would think, oh, I don't look good on screen. I don't sound good on screen. Who does? Everybody judges themselves. Just make the content. Who cares? I look back now and I'm like, all right, we did good, no matter what 1.0 looked like or not. So one thing, just start recording, making content, posting stories, being out there. And then definitely posting a lot. Posting was big too. Fortunately, because business has been good, I was able to get a great marketing assistant in-house in the team that, young, understands what's going on. I don't have to like really do anything, but I'm the on air, I'm the talent. So just really also don't try to do every platform. So I know I probably am not the best one to actually give that advice because I'm on like everything, but like I love Instagram and YouTube. YouTube's the long game. Instagram's fun too because it's pictures and visuals and little videos and stuff like that. Facebook's always a staple, right? Facebook is always I think it's just always gonna be there. Is it gonna be a great one eventually? I don't know. I hear a lot of mixed things. But Instagram, if you're not on Instagram, that's where a lot of the younger millennials are, not necessarily Gen Y or the youngers, but like they're there too. But just get content out there. And it's crazy, Bill. I never thought I'd be in that position, right? To have 1,300 subscribers. You asked me 3 years ago on the first call that would be it. I'd be like, yeah, no way. No way. But that's called consistency.
It is crazy. It is about consistency, but it has been for me too. And because I've been chasing you and I'm catching up. So one of my mentors in YouTube video is Sean Cannell, Think Media, and their whole game plan is just press play. And so I just started, and even now today, I just video it, whatever. We'll fix it later, or we won't fix it later. Get the content going, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. I've seen with you, you've come a long way. You've really, I liked your video when I first saw you. I remember our first phone call, and you said like, what we talked about. I said, Al, I've seen you. I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to throw the ball, and you're going to take it and run. And it's always been a lot of fun. We've had a really good time together. I really appreciate going with you. So thank you so much. So people want to reach out to you for legal services, probate, and related legal matters in the state of Florida. They would get a hold of you. I have Al Nicoletti is your name, at Al Nicoletti on the social media. And then your website is alnicoletti.com, and you have connections there. Any other last words you want to give to people watching today?
Bill, if you can make me host, or I can share like the little slide that I have with the social links. But like I said, let me show this so everybody can see. Basically, put this right here. So just so everybody sees it, if you got Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, these are the social links right here. Definitely that's where you're going to find me. Bill will put in the www.alnicoletti.com, but this is big. A lot of people, I know some people, when they start following, I'll see the notifications come up on my phone. But if you really want more content that you can grasp from this stuff, I know there's people always trying to learn in different markets. That's definitely going to be the best way. Social media, the website he showed over there, and just keep up with it. Keep going. Don't stop. Everybody's got different lives and families and everything, but that doesn't mean that you take away from what you want to do and you want to pursue in your life.
Al Nicoletti, it is always a pleasure. Thanks again for what you do for the community, what you do for real estate agents and investor community, and me personally. It's been fun watching you It was actually Al 1.0 was at the old law firm. 2.0 was last show. We're going to have to call you now Al 3.0. Can't wait to meet Al 4.0 next time around. So thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. Everybody
Thank
else
you
on
as
the
always, Bill.
everybody else on the call. Hey, we do this every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We live stream to YouTube and Facebook. It's probateweekly.com. And on YouTube and other social media, I'm at Bill Gross EXP, again, at Bill Gross EXP on social media. Thank you, everybody. Make it a great day, and hoping to see you at getprobate.cash next Wednesday. Thanks so much.